one of the world's leading atheists and perhaps one of the most outspoken critics of Christianity, considers himself to be a cultural Christian and is now lamenting the decline of Christian values. Didn't see that one coming. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And we're going to be talking about that famous biologist, Richard Dawkins. All right.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we...
Now, right off the bat, safe to assume that when he says instead of, it's probably referring to instead of Easter, right? Now, the question is, Richard, why are you horrified that Ramadan is being promoted instead of Easter? Honestly, why should you care? Let's go ahead and continue playing the video.
We are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer.
I call myself a cultural Christian. What? Richard Dawkins? The guy that's come into Christianity left and right, who sat down with John Lennox, who sat down with Willie Lane Craig. Actually, recently he talked about how he refuses to sit down with Willie Lane Craig again. I wonder why.
But there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, you know...
Now, personally, I kind of agree with this one. It's the difference between being a believing Christian and a cultural Christian. I think it's a shame that an atheist is able to see this difference while some professing Christians do not. The problem here is that Richard is trying to have his cake and eat it too. You can't claim to hold to Christian values while outright rejecting the foundation they stem from. We see professing Christians make the same mistake when they claim to be Christian but don't do church. That's a contradiction. Let's continue here.
I love hymns and Christmas carols, and
honestly, really? I love hymns and Christmas carols? Come on. You do realize the majority of those hymns and carols only have true meaning if Christianity is true, which you vehemently disagree with. You've said this over and over again. You just said this a few seconds ago. It's important that when we profess these worldviews, these different ideas, right, these different beliefs that we hold to, we recognize how they logically play out. We have to follow the logical conclusions. We can't just pretend like these things can be held to and it affects nothing. That's not the way life works. And someone in Richard's position, very smart guy, kind of disappointed. Like, you know this.
I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian.
I feel at home in the Christian ethos. Honestly, this is just mind-blowing, especially coming from him. It's just not something that I don't think anybody truly expected. I mean, we've heard him say other things in the past, particularly when talking about another religion. But I'm going to be honest, definitely didn't see this coming.
Country in that sense. It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that, but I would not be happy if...
He says it's true that the number of people who believe in Christianity is statistically going down, and I'm happy with that. He wants the benefits that Christianity offers while rejecting the worldview itself. Respectfully, Richard, this is incoherent and illogical. For someone who so passionately advocates for using your brain, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, he's more kind of a naturalistic atheist, so his whole mind thing is a little fuzzy. This just falls short. And as far as Christianity statistically going down, keep in mind he's in the UK, right? And while this is true of Western Christianity, it is not the case worldwide. Across the globe, Christianity is experiencing exponential growth, particularly in the global South. I'm thinking more like, Latin America, Central America, South America, Africa. Let's continue the video here.
For example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches.
Let me roll this back a little bit here.
For example, we lost all our cathedrals and our.
Back up a little bit more.
And I'm happy with that, but I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches.
Why wouldn't you be happy? And this claim about beauty, it seems that you're appealing to an objective sense of beauty. Is that the case? Sounds like it.
So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it wouldn't matter if we substituted any alternative religion. That would be truly dreadful.
Well, which brings.
If we substituted any alternative religion, that would be dreadful. Now, in this video alone, he has referred to himself as a cultural Christian, by my count, at least 3 times. Ironically, I don't think he realizes that this is what he himself has been pushing for years. His brand of atheism is, by all intended purposes, a religion. So when he talks about not trying to replace it with any alternative, Richard, this is kind of what you've been doing for a while. It just doesn't seem to be coherent.
Me to my supplementary point, which is that, as we know, church attendance is plummeting, but the erection of mosques across Europe, I think 6,000 are under construction, and there are many more, are being planned. So do you regard that as a problem? Do you think?
Honestly, I didn't know this, right? And obviously, they're in another part of the world, right? In Europe. She says 6,000 mosques are under construction in Europe. Do you regard that as a problem? Let's see how Richard responds to this.
That matters.
Yes, I do, really.
Wow. Yes, I do. And honestly, can we blame him? The last time Islam had control of Europe, it didn't go so well. That's just a historical fact. I know a lot of people might not necessarily like that. They might want to offer some pushback, but when you look at it, that's just what it is.
I mean, I might choose my words carefully. I mean, if I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, I choose Christianity every single time.
There's really not much to say here, right? It is utterly shocking to hear one of the world's leading atheistic voices say publicly that he would choose Christianity over every other religion every single time. I don't know. Who saw this coming?
I mean, it seems to me to be a fundamentally decent religion, in a way that I think Islam is not.
Wow. So much for choosing your words carefully here, Richard. But you know who else says something like this? Says something very similar? Another one of these 4 horsemen of new atheism. This guy particularly recently sat down with Alex O'Connor to have a conversation about ethics. Sam Harris. You can actually hear him talk about Islam a few times on his podcast. Actually quite interesting.
I think you're going to have to explain why you say that, Professor Dawkins. Why is Islam fundamentally not decent like Christianity?
Yes, I mean the way women are treated.
His response here, I think, is, let's just play it, right?
I mean, Christianity is not great about that. It's had its problems with female vicars and female bishops and things.
So one of the things he points out is the way that women are treated in Islam. And he says Christianity has something great about that. Actually, Christianity worldwide has done more for the betterment of women than any other world view. That's not just an opinion. Historically, if you look at, the studies, the statistics, all that stuff, that seems to be where the evidence points.
But there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam. I'm not talking about individual Muslims.
Uh-oh. Richard Dawkins didn't get the memo. You can't say stuff like this in 2024. You are an Islamophobe. He does clarify, give him credit, right? He does clarify that he's not talking about individual Muslims. He says that they behave quite differently. And I'm inclined to agree here. But they behave differently in spite of what their holy books teach.
Who, of course, are quite different. But the doctrines of Islam, the Hadith and the Quran, is fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays.
I think this is what is often overlooked, right? Particularly here in the West, where the LGBT community has flocked to support, unfortunately, Hamas in a lot of cases. This is what happens when we hold to ideas and worldviews without considering the consequences. When we don't think through these things, then play them out to the logical conclusions. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.